AI and authenticity. What I hope you were seeing, even if I didn't say it explicitly, is that artificial intelligence is a kind of machine intelligence that pretends to be human intelligence. Its model of reality, its logic, is hidden to us. But that model was built by scouring human artifacts and then imitating them when it interacts with humans. The whole basis of generative AI like ChatGPT is the imitation of humanness, trained on what humans do. And by the way, don't blame it if it turns out to sound racist or paranoid or, for that matter, stupid. It learned that from us. But is a computer putting on a human face the same thing as human consciousness? Does an intelligent machine have a self, a soul? At the moment, we understand what is going on in existing AIs well enough to say no. However, these AIs are still growing and maturing, and we don't know about the black box inside. So what about the future? Well, as I said in the previous episode, right now we don't know, and we don't know how to know whether or not these AIs will become conscious or even self-conscious. There's a couple of files that you can read on this. The thing is, human-like intelligence and communication are very useful because we humans interact best and most efficiently with our fellow humans. For millions of years, we have honed our social and communicative skills so that we can relate efficiently with our fellow humans. For this reason, the human-centered interface, usually what is called a natural language interface, is the best way to give us access to data or ideas or analysis. And if what we want is to access the knowledge of our fellow humans, then it will be trained, this AI, on the things that humans have said and written. And by the way, if they've said and written nonsense, it will be trained on nonsense. And here we need to take a brief pause. There is a kind of AI that tries to find novel answers to all kinds of problems related to the functioning of the natural world. While this kind of AI uses some of the advances in computer science found in ChatGPT, it has a different focus. And for now, we're going to leave it aside. A machine that can help us put our thoughts into actions most efficiently will know the kinds of things our fellow humans know and will understand our questions and speak our language. In short, it will be like a human. And of course, the same thing is true of a machine that answers questions and gives advice. As we are seeing, it turns out that neural networks running generative pre-training transformer models that are pre-trained on massive amounts of human discourse in every possible language, something called a large language model, these AIs do a superlative job of imitating humans and the things that humans do, including carrying on conversations, creating art, writing music, and even telling stories. And this is useful. After all, it can save me a lot of time and money if I can have a virtual assistant that will do everything from create the illustrations for my PowerPoints to write the theme music for my podcast. Even better if it can take on the tedious task of writing YouTube descriptions optimized for various search engines, something I've used AI for. It's even better if it can write articles and papers and news reports and, yes, computer programs that I don't have the time or energy to write. And yes, I say computer programs because computer programs are written in a human language, and GPTs are good at responding in human language to human language instructions with stuff in that same language. An aside for non-computer geeks. Programming languages were and are written to allow humans to speak to a computer. But the computer itself speaks what is called machine language. Another kind of computer program that used to be called an assembler translates from the programming language, let's pick one, C++ or JavaScript, Fortran in the old days. This thing called an assembler translates from the programming language to what's called assembly language. And then a compiler translates from assembly language to machine language. Now, at one time, these were separate steps. First, a human like me, or maybe like you, wrote a computer program. Then an assembler put it into assembly language. Then a compiler put it into machine language. Then it ran on the computer, which spit out answers in binary code. Those answers were then translated into numbers and letters. If you had the equipment, these numbers and letters could then be translated into charts and graphs, or eventually translated into something like human language. There was the invention of a set of binary codes that would represent each letter of the alphabet, so that you could begin to translate back into the kind of letters that we read and not just ones and zeros or 1 through 16 in hexadecimal. Because even modern neural networks work in machine language, speaking in binary code, even ChatGPT has a translation interface to go from what you type in to its actual work on finding an answer. And it also has a translation interface to move from its naked output in binary code to letters and numbers. This makes it quite easy to install human filters to look for and detect words, phrases, pictures, and etc. that aren't allowed by the owners of the chatbot. You don't see all this. You just see the output. But the key thing here is that ChatGPT doesn't speak any human language to itself, if it speaks to itself at all. Which returns us to the central question. Are we recognizing something like ourselves in the AI, or are we projecting our humanity into the AI? Or are we slowly redefining our humanity as computer-like because our computer has enough translators between itself and us that it begins to look like us? While we're taking a break, let's address the dystopian fears that AIs will take over the world. They run on electricity. Unplug the computer on which the AI runs, and it stops. Or, alternatively, just don't listen to what it says. I really want to emphasize this because we probably ought to preach it from the pulpit. ChatGPT is only as smart and dangerous as the humans it depends on are stupid and lazy. Okay, let's get back to the question of authenticity. Years ago, I worked with a trained artist who was interested in conceptual art. She had an idea for a piece, but didn't have the knowledge or the skills to actually create what was a relatively simple kind of machine. It was made to turn rocks. So she asked if I and a friend would create it from her description of it. And we did. And she signed it and turned it into the art school as her work of art. Was it hers? The idea was hers. The concept was hers. But we did all the work of making that idea, that concept, real. So who's the real artist? There was a time when an artist had to learn the fine motor skills and the tools necessary to turn ideas and visions into painting and sculpture. There was a time when a writer threw away 1,000,000 words just learning their craft so that they could begin to express their ideas in poems, novels, short stories, and scripts. There was a time when a computer programmer had to learn the language of the computer before they could write the program that would solve a particular problem. There was a time when a skilled counselor had to learn a wide range of human expressions of emotion, maybe in more than one language, and had to learn how humans express their emotions in a particular cultural context, so that that counselor could then understand and positively respond to their clients. What ChatGPT and similar GPTs that are built on LMMs can do is to allow us to let the AI put our ideas into a painting, sculpture, script, book, or essay without us learning the basic skills of creating art. They allow us to articulate a problem and then let them solve it. Or we can just trust them to be the masters of both understanding and articulating human feelings, and thus stand in for a human counselor who might take years otherwise to master the basic skills of pastoral care and counseling. As artificial intelligence becomes better and better at presenting a human face, which is desirable because of its efficiency in relating to us as humans, it raises the question of authenticity. Do I want a painting that is in every respect just like a Picasso? Or do I want a painting that the man Picasso himself painted? Do I want a song that sounds just like it was written by Taylor Swift? Or do I want a song recorded by Taylor Swift herself? Do I want an attentive but entirely artificial conversation partner? Or do I want a real human? Let's be honest with ourselves. Forgeries and fakes have always been part of the human social world, as have been forgers and fakers. There has always been the question of how much we would value just having something versus how much we would value having an authentic version of it. After all, many of us have fake Rolex watches and fake Gucci handbags. You can buy a fake Herman Miller chair that is conveniently labeled mid-modern chair at Walmart for a fraction of the cost of the real thing. What difference does it make if the handbag or the jewelry or the watch or the chair looks good and works? Moreover, we've always hired our fellow humans or used machines to do the things we can conceptualize but lack the skill or strength to do. Every architect needs an architectural engineer and hundreds of carpenters, bricklayers, painters, and so on. Even the most brilliant movie director needs a movie editor and, of course, cameramen, actors, sound engineers, Foley artists, set designers, and so on. Anyone who's published a book, or at least a good book, knows the value of an editor. And what preacher hasn't borrowed someone else's story to illustrate a point? The hallmark of human civilization is the division of labor, with specialists taking on tasks that the rest of us cannot do. Back 45 years ago at Perkins School of Theology, none of us typed our own systematics credo. We paid a skilled typist to do it. Other papers we turned in handwritten. If you were really important, you had a stenographer who took down your dictated ideas and then turned them over to a typist to type them up. Believe it or not, there were faculty members who had that privilege. They didn't write a book even in the sense of putting pencil to paper. They dictated a book. If it was a book that was being dictated, an editor made serious changes and a copy editor corrected grammar and spelling. Now, we must learn skills like keyboarding. And we have semi-intelligent computer assistants to check our grammar, our spelling, and even our style. If we are important enough, we have research assistants to do our research for us as well. If I have an AI assistant who does all of these things quickly and cheaply, is the final product less authentic? Is it less Robert Hunt and more AI? So where do we draw the line? What is the difference between a reproduction of one of the great masters' paintings that we hang in our office and a forgery that we would be ashamed to claim as our own? What's the difference between hiring a human to help us bring our imagination into reality and using an AI that can do the same thing quicker and more easily? And what about human relationships? Real or authentic? Many years ago, Del Reeves sang about how easy it is to get sucked into loving an image. Listen to the lyrics of his hit song. Who is the girl wearing nothing but a smile and a towel in the picture on the billboard in the field near the big old highway? Yeah, look it up on YouTube. That's the first line and it's the title. Rolling down the highway in my Jimmy hauling freight from Chicago to St. Louis, Lord, I see her every day. A double-clutching weasel like me can hardly ever get a girl to look at him that way. I slow my Jimmy down to 20. That's how many wrecks I see there every day, caused by the girl wearing nothing but a smile and a towel in the picture on the billboard in the field near the big old highway. Doggone that girl wearing nothing but a smile and a towel in the picture on the billboard in the field near the big old highway. Sleepy-headed painter said the girl wasn't real. Better get the hell on my way. Well, on Route 66, from the billboard to Chicago, you'll find tiny pieces of my heart scattered every which way. Shattered by the girl wearing nothing but a smile and a towel in the picture on the billboard in the field near the big old highway. Well, how different is the sweet voice of an AI answering questions and solving problems on your smart speaker or cell phone from the girl wearing nothing but a smile and a towel on a billboard? Isn't half of every human relationship what we read into the person on the other side? How much of every human relationship is our imagination of who they are and what they think about us? Any psychologist will tell you we become infatuated not with the other person, but with ourselves that we see in the other person. The imagined relationship. So given how easily we project our longings for relationship onto billboards or images on TV or on the stage or onto strangers we suddenly imagine have an interest in us, or onto celebrities, how is an AI that listens to our every word and responds instantly going to be different? It's a theme that has already been explored in both literature and movies. And when it comes to authenticity, being surrounded by fakes on one hand and obedient assistants on the other hand is only half the problem. The other half of the problem is being forced by social pressure to fake ourselves. The feeling we have that we need to be someone we are not to fit into society. This is why we live in the middle of a crisis of authenticity. Who can see the real me, as The Who sang 50 years ago? And does anybody want the real me? This is why we find increasing demands, justifiable demands from younger people for both that which is authentic and for the space in which they can be authentic. One would think that this speaks unambiguously against the use of artificial intelligence, it's fake, or digitally mediated ministries which can easily be faked. But it isn't that simple. Digitally mediated ministry opens doors for inclusion. AIs can be incredibly empowering. Being able to take an idea from conception to realization when one lacks the physical capability or the money to hire people means new creative possibilities for humans abound, especially those who are differently abled. We wouldn't have much of Stephen Hawking's most brilliant work if clever AIs hadn't been able to let the entirely immobilized physicist both speak and record his ideas. Readily available companionship and robotic help in the healthcare setting are of vast benefits to those who have no access to such help and care. AI in virtual worlds is being used right now to train physicians, nurses, and medical technologists who otherwise have no access to such training. And ChatGPT offers a global access to information and intellectual conversation previously limited to a handful of largely Western educated elites. And it does so in every language. True, this diminishes human collaboration and relationship. But let's not pretend that everyone has access to human collaboration and relationships. For those of us in education, the face-to-face classroom experience, particularly at the tertiary level, is a privilege that very few people worldwide have ever had or will ever have. The internet and AI is creating a revolution in the availability of knowledge, teaching, and training that up to now was limited to academic elites almost entirely in the West. Think of a lonely, bedridden person living their days being distracted by a succession of television shows. Imagine a person in crisis, far away from the office and far out of office hours. Isn't a robotic dog or an app that chats happily and encouragingly for hours far better than the arrogant absence of the privileged inveighing against the inauthenticity of AI? And what if you are a person who finds their authentic self rejected by much of society? The chatbot or the AI counselor trained to be non-judgmental doesn't have all the baggage that comes with our parents, uncles, aunts, grandparents, pastors, and friends. A well-trained AI isn't constantly evaluating us and judging whether we are good enough for their society or ratting us out because of a shared secret that can be used against us. You go on ChatGPT 4.0. It listens to your questions and it gives you an answer 24/7. And it never complains. Why did you wake me up? Why are you bothering me? Anyone who's been betrayed by a fellow human in church and who hasn't been betrayed in church might well think the inauthenticity of an AI is better than the authenticity of a fellow human. So here we are. We live in a crisis of authenticity matched by a crisis of human inavailability. Inavailability of acceptance and understanding. AI can give us what we are otherwise denied by circumstance, culture, and society. Yes, it may also become a barrier to both being authentically human and engaging in authentically human relationships. Because the lonely person talking to an app might well prefer a real human friend with real human touch. But where is that to be found? Where can I bring my authentic self to a community of real humans engaged in human relationship? In the last episode, I reminded us that the church is the labor ward of a new humanity. This is our most important job, giving the people the opportunity to be restored, not just to their authentic selves through Jesus Christ, but to live in a realm in which that authentic selfhood is held as the preeminent value. Christ died for you. Christ didn't die for doctrine. Christ didn't die for social norms, however deeply rooted in our history and culture. Christ didn't die for ideologies or political parties or social analysis. Christ died so that humans could be restored to their full, authentic humanity. As the church seeks to be a church in a digital medium, AI offers unprecedented challenges to human authenticity, and it may be used to destroy all authentic human relationships. It also offers unparalleled opportunities to foster authentic humanity, to learn who we really are and what makes us unique. The decision will be ours, and it cannot be put off. The capacity of AI as a tool for manipulation and dehumanization is already being realized on a wider and wider scale. In the next 12 to 18 months, we will experience just how dangerous this tool is if it remains unrecognized and unregulated. And in that same period, we'll have the opportunity to redeem it in the service of Christ through the church if we act with the greatest determination and self-awareness to use it more in the ministry of giving birth to authentic humanity. But we have to decide to make human authenticity our primary goal and build it into our community life, a life built around authentic human interactions in whatever medium we find ourselves. The digital medium changes the challenges to human authenticity, but as I said at the beginning of this course, it is in the end just another medium. True, AIs and their avatars are beginning to inhabit the digital world, and we'll have to decide how we regard them. That will require the thoughtful application of neuroscience, psychology, and theology. But again, the problem isn't new. All the other media are full of fakers and frauds. And part of what we must do as Christians is tell the false from the real. Paul calls it discerning the spirits. Because even in his time, even in the unseen realm of spirit, there were and remain fakes and frauds. If the Corinthians could do it, then I think we can do it if we begin working on the problem. What we cannot do is wait. The crisis of authenticity is already pressing on us as AI is used to manipulate us and ultimately to dehumanize us. The church needs to step up and be the gospel. God came as human to rescue, redeem humanity from everything false and restore us to our authentic selves. At this moment in time, that is the only good news there is.